What up, guys? Today we're going to be building a Zoom rack for a local college. They had a bunch of gear laying around, and they didn't really have the know-how to kind of get anything up and running in terms of Zoom. So I kind of threw this rack together with some gear they had lying around. Oddly enough, some of the gear was brand new that they had lying around, but that's another story. So just what we're looking at really quick on the left here is the Zoom rack itself, and in the middle is my laptop plugged into the configuration port on the Extron, and the monitor all the way to the right is going to be the it's the loop out, the HDMI loop out of the Extron, and basically that's just giving a separate feed to all the designers and stage managers at the tech table, because the whole idea is that we can have limited people in the room. We're at a college. We're still trying to do some sort of virtual filming type shows. So some of the designers and things like that will be zooming in as opposed to being in the room. Only the essential people will actually be in the room. So let's dive into the rack a little bit. You can see I just took some B-roll here. We got the GUI, and this is kind of the front of everything. The dustiest keyboard you've ever seen in your lifetime. You can see my laptop and the loop out there. I'm just using my test pattern. Going to the back of the rack, you can kind of see how everything's plugged up. I think I did a relatively neat job. There's a couple, other cables flying around here and there and everywhere, but the only other plan at the moment would be to add a KVM to this. Everything is kind of running off of one Mac right now. So yeah, looking at the back of the Mac that we're actually using, you can see the power, network, HDMI, and two USBs plugged in. One of the USBs is going to be a little splitter that just does our keyboard, video, and also the Behringer is plugged into that as well. And the other USB is going to be for the output of the Extron. You can see here in this photo the USB splitter with the three things I just mentioned plugged into them. This is a little bit closer picture of the network switch. There's only three things on the network, each Mac and the Extron. The idea being that once my laptop is gone, you can certainly still plug in a USB to the configuration port on the front of the Extron, but you can also network into it. So if you just opened a browser in Safari on the Mac side of things, you could just type in your IP address and then access, all the configuration stuff just like you normally would through the configuration port. This is the back of the Behringer mixer. Right now we have 2 1/4-inch outs coming out of the Behringer, going directly into a terminal strip going into the line in the Extron, which you can see right here with the orange and yellow tags on them. The mic line input and the output, they're just kind of wired to some XLR pigtails at the moment. Right now, you can see that my desktop is coming into HDMI 1. Just HDMI input at the top here, and then our monitor is coming out of the HDMI at the bottom, which is just the loop out. This whole kind of middle, we'll say, underneath the vents to the right of the power is your whole input side of the Extron. The next little kind of squared off bubble is the output side. So as you can see, we're only outputting the USB, and the other end of that is connected to the Mac, which again, you can see right here. It's going to be the one immediately to the right of the HDMI. This is another microphone the school had kicking around, so we decided to just throw it on a stand right in front of the tech table. It's the Audio Technica AT875R. I don't know much about audio, but this works well. So jumping back to my laptop that's plugged into the USB configuration port on the front of the device, this is, once you open the software, this is how it will prompt you. And you can see in the right hand side here, the connection is USB. So once you go ahead and connect the device, it's going to take forever to find the device and then load everything it needs to do. It seems to be a little slower USB than the network, so just FYI when you're doing this. And once we load, this is what it will look like. There'll be 6 tabs at the top, and it'll default to the first input-output configuration tab. This is really the only tab I've had to kind of configure things with, or within, I should say. The biggest thing that I had to do was change the USB output to a 1080p output as opposed to the 720p that it comes with. And you can see that I just changed it here under the format. I had changed it to 420 full, and then under the custom tab, you can see I've selected 1080p down at the bottom. This is the EDID monitor tab. I haven't really messed around with this, but it just kind of shows your inputs and outputs here. This is the picture configuration tab. Again, I haven't really messed with this yet, and I haven't had to. My signals coming into the device have always been 1920, and I've always wanted to output them as high res as possible, so that's why I had maxed it out in the first tab there. This is the loop configuration, and again, I hadn't changed anything right out of the box. This is just how it came. When there's nothing plugged into it, it'll show the Extron logo, as you can see right here, which is super helpful. So, for example, if you don't have your camera set up or if you don't have a device to test with, then you could just still select it as a source in Zoom, but just have the Extron logo show up as opposed to a black screen and wonder if you're not getting anything. This is the audio tab, and this is laid out quite nice, I think. The first page is the inputs here, and you can see that we are using the line in on the back of the unit. If we go to our mix configuration, again, I haven't changed too much in this tab. I've just kind of let it rock. Going to the output side of things, you can see the USB levels and the line out levels. We're only using the USB output, if you remember from the diagram. And this is our presets, which, again, I haven't messed with because our audio setup is not very complex. This is the last tab here, the general settings. This is pretty much what you would expect to find in the general settings tab, just kind of simple things like locking and unlocking the front panel, things of that nature. If we do go into the hardware settings, this gives you a little bit more kind of control. You can look at your IP address, you can look at your MAC address, you can change your device name, you can change your USB name, how it'll come up. Maybe you have a couple of these devices on the network and you want to select, media port number 1 as opposed to media port number 3. This is how you would change all of that. So you can just see I'm kind of going through the tabs here and showing you the different things, setting the date and things like that. So that's pretty much the configuration software. And I'm just going to show you guys really quickly how to get into it via the network. You just open a web browser like Chrome or Safari and type in your media port's IP address, and it should prompt you with the Extron username and password sign in. And then it should take you to the same screen that we saw originally, but instead of the USB connection, it would say network. And we're back on the Mac now. You can see that in my audio and video settings, in the bottom left there, that the microphone and the video device are both set as the Extron media port, which is exactly what we want to be doing. And again, I'm just using my test pattern from my desktop to show very quickly. So that pretty much wraps it up, is how you would get audio and video into the rack here, kind of over into your Zoom feed in what I think is a very simple way. So let me know if this was helpful to anybody, doing Zoom or doing virtual events. I know it's become a big part of our lives now, so hopefully this made some things easier for some people.